Hello, welcome. July the 25th, Tuesday. It's time for Get Out of Rap TV. Thank you for joining me. If you're one of the guys that joins every week, thanks so much. If you're brand new, hopefully you will stick around. Where are you watching from? Let's drop into the comments and say hello. And also, why not write to people and say what they can contact you for? What is it you are offering? If you're offering anything, um, why not say hello and say, look, if you connect with me, this is what you get. So please do drop in, say hello. Hopefully, we haven't got a repeat of something I'm still mentally scarred by, which is when I was talking to myself for the entire show. So hopefully, I'm not just here by myself. Hello, Michael. Wow. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Can you remember back in the day, back in lovely Athenian? How are you? I mean, come on, everyone. Look at that name. Michael, what can people contact you for? What are you up to these days? That face. Are you talking about the size of my forehead again? Here he is, the culture man. Danny, thank you so much for joining again. It wouldn't be a show without you, Danny. And also you, Scott. Good morning. If you connect with me, you get random metaphors. You do, but you got to keep them coming. They're very thought provoking. Hello, Kerry. How are you? Kerry Sudale, of course, a bit of a role model for me on my journey being self employed. The Welsh wizard. Here she is, Marianne. Lovely to see you too. Always joins, even when um, she can only stay for a bit down there in Wales. Alistair's here. Alistair from Oz, traveling undercover as unknown user. Now, Alistair Glass, I'm still trying to get you pinned down for an episode, the first Australian to come on Get Out of Rap. I'm hopeful. You've always been there as a supporter. Nick's back. Brilliant. Been away for a few weeks. Apologies. Joining from Scotland. So, Nick is offering senior management coaching and mentoring. Leadership can be a lonely place. Very true. And Nick, also, am I right in thinking you were host and panel lead for a CX event in Glasgow as well? So people can also contact Nick for that. Yes, Mike. Opinion International, the good old days. Mike can probably tell a story about what I was like as a. He can go to him for the truth about what I was like as a leader in the good old outbound days. Hey, Craig's here. Morning, sports fans. Contact center and office recruitment miracle makers here at Red Recruitment. So mostly chat about agents. And I need to talk to you, Craig, about getting an agent special episode of Get Out of Rap. Um, Ray's here, the rare sunshine. Bev is here. Howdy, connect with me for comedy value. But she is also a gun for hire. Fastest guns in the West. Lovely Avunya, probably along with Pete down at BPA and Helen, of course, the biggest brain I've ever met, and a lovely, lovely person as well, ever there. Good morning from sunny Exeter. Alistair, I'm in. Need my employer to agree I will behave. I'll keep you on the straight and narrow. So, Michael runs a design agency. If you need user interface design or design one to one coaching, shout me. Brilliant. Even as a student on the phones for a bit, Mike was a seriously creative genius. So definitely get in touch with him. That's correct. I like to talk, says Nick. Me too. I am Welsh, but I don't live there. We are based in Havant, between Portsmouth and Chichester. Of course you are. Of course you are, Marianne. I'm sorry. You're practically a Portsmouth veteran down there. The lovely Verity Centre. So do get in touch with them. Boutique outsourcing. Now for Kerry, it's leadership hiring in CX and customer experience. Mainly talk about EVP and working as a business owner with two young kids. There we go. Brian, good morning from Edinburgh. Edinburgh, lovely, lovely place. It's great to have you all here. Um, Farhad's here. Awesome. Farhad is always a member of this little community we're building here, and I'm good to have you here, my friend. Remind me where you are again. Where are you watching from? Um, so I have a lot coming up today. Now, if do you remember? Oh, I've missed it already. How silly of me. But I do have to thank Sabio for sponsoring this episode. My friends there, Joe, Stu, Craig, they allow me to do this, and so thank you very much. They're always interesting guys. We have interesting conversations about what's going on, and they're a big reason why I took the leap to become self-employed. I'm quite tall, so I can get things from high shelves. You are, Steve. You're also the main man that I go to for anything compliance or regulatory wise. Um, I'm the opposite, so I can get things from lower shelves. Farhad, I thought so. Thank you very much. We have a very global show, which is great. Say hello to everyone there in South Africa. Steve, same as Clayton, the sellout. Is that how you feel about Clayton leaving the shores and coming over here? What a lovely man Clayton is, though. I think we can all agree. Yeah, ever is loving Steve. Okay, so do you remember last week's show? I was talking about what would you want to improve for our industry, and Dan Cohen from Nespresso rightly pointed out that we tended to focus on some of the negatives that are going on in our industry, and I made the commitment that the question for today is, when you think about our industry, what's the first thing you think of the reason that you love about it? Ah, Patrick, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, it won't be your last. Um, get involved in this. So, when you think about our industry, can you name the first thing you think about of why you love it? Why do you love our industry? What do you love about our industry? Why should we talk about it passionately, encourage people to be in the contact center world? So I've listened to you, Dan. I'm not sure if Dan's watching today. He's always catches up on YouTube if needs be, but I promised you I'd do a positive one. So name the first thing you think of. Why do you love our industry? And as always, is diversity of people from ever. Ah, Fahad, you know Patrick. Good to see you. Um, Yes, couldn't agree more ever. One of the things that I loved about working with you at BPA is you'd walk in and it would be like the UN. It was such a lovely cosmopolitan place, and the creativity and just the vibe because of that diversity was brilliant. Hey Vanda, hello from North London. First show for me too. Well, of course, North London got a special place in my heart. David, hello, mate. Good to see you again. The people, of course. I know we still have to catch up. I'm sorry. My inbox is like a skip fire, so I do know that we've got to get a date together. Marianne says diversity of so many things. It's so true, isn't it? Sometimes I think we live in a bubble. I can remember at an earlier age just thinking everyone was so accepting, and then you hear about places where it's not quite the case. You think, well, I've always been around people of different backgrounds, persuasions, genders, race, everything, neurodiversity. So you're dead right, diversity, Craig. Cakes, cakes, cakes. When we go to the read along, I'm surprised Contact Babel haven't done something along the lines of weight gain based on the length of time you spend in contact centers. Hello, Natumpungwa, Precious Petros. Hello from Cape Town. First show for me. Hello, my friend. And I'm sorry if I've completely mangled your first name. I'm going to work on that. Keep watching. The people and the fast paced environment. We love it, don't we? We absolutely love it. That fast pace of, and also I think firefighting, especially if you're in operations. Ah, you know it. You know it. The shirts are no longer in view, Patrick, but my Tottenham shirts are here. Come on, you Spurs, exactly. Very hopeful for this season. Don't get me started on that. Danny, diversity of roles and experience in the compulsory. Morrison's 3 boxes of cakes for £3. Now, Marianne will know this, and Michael, if he's still with us. Morrison's was just around the corner from an outsourcer where I worked in Portsmouth, and it was a constant. You saw a stream of people coming back with cakes. Follows a great economic process. Very true. Mark's here. Hello, Mark. Brilliant to have you again. Call centers are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So much diversity. Love it. Couldn't agree more. It's a fast paced and ever changing. Always lots of opportunities to improve outcomes. And I think if you love people, but you love fixing things or seeing the outcome of your action leading to a positive change, then a contact center is a great place, isn't it, Nick? Because as you say, always lots of opportunities to improve outcomes. Mark, hello, mate. Data, not just the numbers, but we turn data into actionable insights and make consumers and advisors' working lives better. What's not to love about our industry? So true. And you make a really, really good point. I think I expected there to be a lot of comments about people, but you make a really good point around attracting people into our industry that want to do something with data and the analysis and the insight that you can get about that. But the key word there, Mark, isn't it, is it's actionable and it's going to do something to make consumers and advisors' lives better. That's brilliant. I love it. Oh, this is good. Farhad, another Spurs fan. Brilliant. I run a football team on a Sunday, and there's a high number of Arsenal fans in that team. So it's nice to have some more Spurs fans around me today. Marianne, have you seen my post this morning and the pictures of the lovely cakes? Go take a look. Now, Marianne is really good at sharing her life and the life of her contact center, including the tuck shop or the tuck cupboard, I think, isn't it, Marianne? So, yes, please do go and have a look at her post and the pictures of the lovely cakes. Bev, couldn't agree more. Working with talented, enthusiastic youngsters. Now, Bev is playing a massive part in the growth of the team leader community. I'll be doing some lovely announcements about that later. But I couldn't agree more. We're so lucky to be working with extremely talented, enthusiastic youngsters who are the future of our industry, and we're in good hands. Here we go. Tuck cabinet. Thank you for the correction. It's important, isn't it? What else do we love? So I think it's coming through loud and clear. Diversity, people, the opportunity to make positive changes and solve problems, using data for actionable insight to make consumers and advisors' lives better. Cakes is there's a strong theme of cakes coming through. First thing I think of from Scott is network. I'm still in contact with contact center colleagues I worked with 20 years ago. So true. And I think the experiences that you go through together create an unbreakable bond, don't they? So, for example, me and Michael, I think that was, how long ago was that, Michael? 15 years, maybe more. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't agree more. Network, and everything happens in the relationship, doesn't it? Hopefully, this show can be a vehicle for all of you guys to connect. Hence, asking this question at the start. Maybe you can all help each other. If not now, then at some point in the future, you absolutely might. One of the only sectors in South Africa that has positive job growth, and I think that is brilliant. There's a lot we can learn from looking across the globe. Certainly here in the UK, I think we can learn a lot from South Africa around how the role of an advisor is considered a real positive step in someone's career. So keep doing what you're doing. One of the only sectors in South Africa that has positive job growth. I think it's brilliant to see. Okay, so a section I know you all love, and you've been waiting for avidly, I'm sure. It's a chance to run a VT. Here we go. Okay, we are doing the read along, and this is of Contact Babel's Decision Makers Guide. This is the UK version. There is a US version as well, and maybe it's worth speaking to Steve Morrell, um, Patrick Farhad, and those watching in South Africa that he should do a South African one. Let me just quickly go back, Marianne. People, lovely people, wonderful people, creative people, diverse and amazing individuals. There you go. That's the line that sums it up. Um, but the read along, what I'm doing is I'm going through, I don't know about you, but I've always referred to Contact Babel's decision maker guide throughout my career. But hands up, I have to admit, prior to doing this, I've never read it all the way through. And that is what we've been doing. Now, if you're so inclined and this, you're a first time watcher, you could go back and see some of the other shows. Where we're up to right now, some really, really interesting slides coming up. We're an interesting part of the report where we're talking about customer satisfaction, CX, and all that brings. So I felt like I was stuck saying we're on page 350. I've checked this morning. We're on page 370 for the Contact Babel nerds amongst you. I include myself in that. So let's go on to the proportion of customers surveyed gathered by method. So for all of our customer surveys that are sent out, you can see that 35% of them were conducted via email. 21%, the next highest, was a live agent. SMS 14%, an IVR 11%. Web form, I thought that would be higher. That's the lowest of 5%. And then other actually accounts for quite a lot. I can't imagine what that is. Maybe you can, someone who is conducting customer surveys and they're not shown in those methods and they sit in other, maybe you could let me know or let us all know how else you could collect customer surveys. um, Customer forums, maybe actually doing it in person and bringing people in. Would that count in other? I mean, because it's still quite a high response, isn't it? But by far the greatest amount is email. And it does make you think, when you get an email related to maybe a purchase or use of a service, how likely are you to complete that survey, that email? And some of the stats within the report, the narrative around it, is saying it's no higher than 10%. Asif, hello. Yes, focus groups. Is this something you do? Do you find them helpful? I imagine you get really great anecdotal and rich data that you couldn't get through asking questions in a focus group. I've only ever seen them at kind of cursory level, and the outcome was shared with us. I've never actually been um, part of it. Bev, other, maybe those smiley buttons at point of sale. Very true. Either when you're leaving IKEA or you're about to pay for something at Sports Direct would be my own personal experience of that. I think and I mentioned last week, when you're facing someone, it's very hard to give a low score. So I'm not sure about the validity of those, but yes, that's definitely got to be in other, hasn't it, Bev? Okay, moving on. This is great. So the respondents of the Decision Makers Guide, as you know, is the largest survey of people responsible, people like you that are watching now. It's the largest survey of people within our industry. So they were asked to rate the effectiveness of methods for gathering customer insight. And you can see here that for the green, which is very effective, customer experience research, calls and emails was the rated most, well, the highest in very effective, 36%, followed by projects studying the customer journey. You can see that in terms of somewhat effective plus very effective, team meetings with supervisors, who pass on agents' insights. So it sounds quite loose, and I definitely think there's more to be said about using agents and team leaders in a more effective way to actually get a daily review of what's working and what isn't. Now, if you go through these lists, look, formal process for gathering agent comments, project studying the customer journey, IVR or SMS, and speech analytics at the bottom there. I am absolutely staggered that the area that isn't listed here, which I think is a huge, huge opportunity for everyone, is that there is nothing there about using your quality team. It does, of course, reference speech analytics, and it does say team meetings with supervisors who pass on agent insights. But if you have a quality framework that is designed to capture customer insight, and you have a methodology whereby you're using your quality teams, quality manager, whoever is the person that is considered responsible, and all the technology around it, you can absolutely use quality, your quality function, to get a real good understanding of customer insight from start to finish. And I find it staggering that it's not even considered one of the possible options. And it feels like it is a huge opportunity for people to focus on it. It used to amaze me at my time at BPA. You'd work with companies who maybe had spent a great deal of money on market research, and you'd say, "Have you ever spoken to your quality teams?" They'd look at you like you were talking Swahili. Um, you have a resource right there that if you ask them the right questions and get them used to collating and gathering and using insight to turn it into actionable insight, to the point made earlier, your quality team can absolutely make a difference. Now, Richard, again, helping with the other app or WhatsApp, social media, very true. Yeah, that could be it, Richard, couldn't it? Absolutely could be it. So, do you agree with this in terms of the effectiveness of methods for gathering customer insight, where if you take very effective and somewhat effective and add them together, we believe that team meetings with supervisors who pass on agent insights is the most effective. That's also fascinating, isn't it, really, when you think about how much technology we have access to and our better understanding of customer behavior, that this is still considered the most effective way overall of gathering customer insight. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? We must have some comments on this. I thought this was a really interesting slide, but you tell me if I'm wrong. See what else some of the narrative around it said was, um, despite the higher incidence of their use, the informal gathering of insights from agents via supervisors is not judged as being especially useful, with 23% of those using this insight method stating that they are very effective compared to 11% ineffective. A formal process for gathering agent insight is seen more positively. Okay, I see. We don't use it, but it is considered very effective. Um, Now, David, hello, sir. How are you? And I will get back to your request as well, by the way. I'm surprised that TL's passing on agent insights secondhand is more effective than actually speaking to agents themselves. So true. Um, Team meetings are important, but could have unconscious bias. Exactly. You can get a bit stuck, can't you? I'm assuming that's Alistair incognito mode. I agree. As a customer on the other methods, I only feedback if the service journey was amazing or terrible. Exactly. If you're at either end of the extreme, you will tend to respond. Otherwise, you don't. Whereas with people on the phone, you tell them about micro issues. Very true, Kerry. Scott says, but if you remove we don't use this method, technically speech analytics is seen as effective by 92% of users. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant analysis there, Scott. See, this is why we need you here, all of you. Hello, another Scott, of course, another great Scott. It's great that it referenced speech analytics. I would also encourage people to explore text analytics, understanding consistency or lack of across all channels, voice and non voice in RE. The agent experience and customer experience is super important. Couldn't agree more. And Scott knows his stuff. Patrick, we have some good feedback and interaction with an integration with Hello Peter, and the QA team runs this detail. The South African audience will know Hello Peter. Oh, it sounds intriguing. Anything that utilizes the QA team, I think, is a good thing. Here we go. I thought you'd been quiet, Danny. I'm biting my tongue a little. There are some organizations that are generally interested in great experience, but there are others that are obsessed with a score. In those, you can see behaviors, decisions that get the highest number rather than materially improving the customer experience. I couldn't agree more. And I think we've all seen it, haven't we? If the methodology and the rationale behind what you're doing is for vanity and for marketing only, then you're going to get a result and you're going to manipulate it and you're going to do what you can to make yourself look good. You're not going to actually do it to deliver insight into how to improve the customer journey. So, like David here, Danny, I completely agree that it's the rationale behind why it's being used, which is the key. And just to repeat that, um, there are some companies, there are some organizations that are genuinely interested in great experience, others obsessed with a score. So very, very true. Now, this leads nicely on. Thank you, Danny, David, Patrick, and Scott, both Scott and Kerry. This leads on to the usefulness of CX benchmarks. Now, we have a few out there, don't we? And it's interesting to see what people rated here. Just have a look at that on screen. Um, Here we go. The most widely used customer experience benchmark is the general customer satisfaction rating, which is used by 84% of respondents. First contact resolution rate is used by 71%, NPS 67%, customer retention rate 52, and agent quality scores 80%. Customer effort score is much less widely used, however, is still in the place of 36% of respondents. What do we think of this then? So, the usefulness, and you can see green is very useful, yellow somewhat useful, pink a little useful, red not useful, and they engage full caps for this one. Black or dark blue don't use this method. Um, so customer satisfaction score, quality score, first contact resolution, NPS, probably surprisingly lower down the list, customer retention rates, and customer effort. I can remember a time when customer effort would have scored a lot higher in this list of what's useful. Why do you think it has dropped down the scale so much? It's interesting. Marianne, again, in agreement with Danny Wareham. Danny, you definitely have your finger on the pulse. Um, Nick, I wonder how much of what is gathered is actually used to change things for the better. Really true. Nick, apologies, might need to drop to join a meeting. I'll be back next time. Thank you, Terminator, and have a good meeting. Um, we measure what matters. Interesting that friction, ease of service, is the least used metric. I know it's interesting again, isn't it? And Bev's talked about this before. You should check out Bev's posts. They're always interesting and thought provoking. Customer effort again, the poor relation. Why do we think that is? Is it weirdly that it's too much effort for us to focus on customer effort? That, let's be honest, there are some processes that we all deal with every day. Some companies that seem to make things extremely difficult through either repetition, hopping around channels, just even getting in touch in the first place. This doesn't surprise me in a way, really, that customer effort is the lowest ranked in terms of usefulness because we are not focused on it. Um, Customer effort would be at the top for me. Ultimately, the lesser the customer effort in any area, the higher other scores. This is surprising. It's interesting as well, isn't it? This is a reflection of the decision makers in our industry, um, that they rank customer effort as the least useful. Um, you took the words right out of my mouth. Steve, yes, it's hard to track and measure, and it has to be cross functional, which can be a big challenge. Do we know of anyone that's doing this really well and that is using customer effort? Scott, for me, how useful they are really depends on the sample size. Those who have responded may well say these things are not useful, as what they see doesn't necessarily tell us the whole story. E.g., quality scores on 2 or 3% of total interactions do not actually tell us our quality is good or not. Very true. And thanks to my time, and Eva can correct me if I'm wrong here, but thanks to my time at BPA, I did learn a course around. I learned about statistical validity and the magic number, which I think is 384, um, and that is that anything as soon as you hit that number of any sample size, you can say you've got a 90% certainty that it's correct and true of all the other bits of data. Have I completely mangled that? Um, I'm available for anyone looking to implement an effort scoring program. I'll put in the F in effort. Well, but you should take Bev up on that offer. Eva says, I wonder if the CSAT score is used the most because it's the most popular and best known. Time for raising awareness and change. I believe so. I don't know about you personally. I have quite a cynical view, I guess, sometimes, or maybe a tired view when I look at CSAT. I always want to know more. I think I'd be much more interested if people talked about brands and services and organizations talked about customer effort. Kerry says, we have seen a lot of businesses where these scores are owned by marketing. Really good point. Therefore, it has been used more as a vanity metric to focus on customer acquisition. Hence, a lot of leaders are struggling with actionable insight. Seeing more businesses hire CX leaders from a customer ops background now, though, that's interesting. Tends to be more effective. That's great. That I applaud that. Scott is 100% agreeing with your last point, I'm assuming, Eva. Um, Yamani's number, sample size. Uh, Was I on the right lines, Danny, or was I wide of the mark? Please do elaborate because that is fascinating. Maybe I should know it. Eva will be rolling her eyes now. I was less of the details man at BPA, more of the just bluster. Okay, now it takes a strange diversion, in my opinion. Next, it goes to let's look at net promoter score by vertical market, um, which is a strange one. So, respondents to this survey generally reported a mix of net promoter scores with a survey wide average of 49. Those in the public sector reported the highest average scores, with outsourcing again the lowest this year. Well, my background's outsourcing. I think you're always on a bit of a hiding to nothing. So, thank you, Danny. You're too kind. Um, Absolutely, Danny. Where I'm at first, we need to have a sample that is representative enough. There you go. You two are on it. What do we think of this when we consider only net promoter score by vertical market with the average at 49%? TMT, which I've learned for the first time thanks to you guys at this show, 48%. Retail and distribution 46, public sector 52%. I'd love to hear from anyone working in the public sector because I always feel like you have a harder challenge here because interaction with the public sector more so than I think a lot of private sector is sourced out of a negative place, right? Why is outsourcing so much lower? Is it because people don't even know that they're responding about an outsourcer? So it's more the client, and then finance the highest there, 53%. Um, Lots of questions about this slide. What do you think? Um, to support my comment about a representative enough sample, HBM, for those of you who don't know, Helen Beaumont Manahan always says you cannot put a glass into the ocean, fill it with water, and come to the conclusion there are no whales here. There you go. You're giving Danny a run for his money now with metaphors, because that is a brilliant one. You cannot put a glass into the ocean, fill it with water, and come to the conclusion there are no whales here. Steve should definitely do a essay survey. Public sector would be interesting. I'm assuming, Patrick, you mean it would differ from this one. You should get in touch with him. You and him could work together on the South African version. Maybe it's in the. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice, and there is actually some. Maybe check out Contact Babel's website. If not, get in touch with him. Let's make it happen. Okay. Any more thoughts on this? Now, here's an interesting one for you quality buffs out there. There is no overall quality score that everyone uses in the industry. So, for the purposes of this research, the question was based around how close to your own target are you. Now, let's just go back for a second. Danny, outsourcer tends to have high attrition, people moving between clients or leaving the organization. That combined with time to competency tends to result in a different experience compared to in-house channels. That statement alone, Danny, could be a whole episode of this show. Because whilst I agree, I also think the opposite is true. I know that we would often compare favorably across all measures, the us as an outsourcer versus the in-house functions and teams and operations. So I think there's definitely validity in what you're saying. And again, could be a whole episode all about that, I reckon. Um, so here we go, just on the quality score. So people were asked, whatever measure you use, where are you in relation to your own target? And you can see that really, if you add up the green, light green, and yellow, you'll see that that group were there or thereabouts or slightly above. So on target, 11%, less than 10% above target, 29%, and more than 10% above target, 16%. Now, I'm sure the likes of Phil and Chris at the forum would have some views around what this tells you about your targeting, for one. But it's interesting, isn't it? From all of the quality measures that are out there, this is a reflection of where people are on their quality score. So more than 10% below target is only 3% of the respondents. So only 3% of the respondents were more than 10% below their own quality score. 41% were less than 10% below. I wonder as well, even though they know it's anonymous, how many people will admit to being a country mile away from their quality score. NPS hangs off the recommend question, perhaps not applicable vis-a-vis BPO. Really, really good point. Danny says, I had to fight to get BPO employees the same benefits as being a direct employer, same incentive experience, etc. If the employee experience is different between BPO and client, the customer's experience will also be different. Yes, you cannot. That is very true, Danny, very true. So, ever as to this slide, the quality score depends what the target is and from whose perspective. Very true. So difficult, this one, as we have no idea how much they are stretching, pushing themselves with their targets. It is. It is. There is a requirement for a quality score that we can all kind of use as a reference point. Okay, quickly now. Customer satisfaction score, same kind of measure. Where are you versus your own CSAT target? You can see 36% said they are above their target, on target 18, and the rest is on or less than. So less than 5% below, 16%, 5 to 10% below 16%, and more than 10% below 14%. Um, so again, very, very similar kind of view, I think, as to the quality score. Now, this one I think you'll find interesting. So, which metric is it that the board and senior management most judge the success of their CX program? So, slightly different question of an earlier visual here. You can see that, interestingly, board and senior members, senior management team, based or judged the success of a CX program more on NPS than they did on CSAT. Um, okay, Marianne, let's see. It is according to who you're outsourced to, of course. This is what I was saying. Our quality scores have been higher than our clients, and we have been 30% more efficient. So, definitely, according to who you use as an outsourcer. Now, in relation to this slide, then, of course, yes, an abbreviation I didn't know until I reached a higher level, and it seemed to cover everything else. Because again, you can see, look, quality score 1%. So it feels like there needs to be some education at board and senior management level. That's what this slide is saying. You need to educate yourselves. You need to find out what's really, really going on. So thank you very much, all of you, for all of your comments, for joining. Um, Next Tuesday's show will be, I'm going to have a few new features and a special feature on the team leader community. I just want to quickly thank my partners, Green Bean, BPA Quality, DDC Outsourcing, and the sponsors of this show, my priority partner, Sabio. Thank you all. You're the reason that I'm able to do this now. So thanks to them. And of course, thank you for another brilliant show. Thank you all for joining in. I hope you have. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Before I go, boards don't talk the same language as operations. They care about EPS, earnings per share, EBITDA, fancy profit. We should do your own dictionary, Danny. I know people in the team leader community would find this amusing and helpful. Bonuses tend to be based on NPS and CSAT, says Kerry. Interesting that they find it the most effective. Yeah, very true. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of the week. Please do carry on. Make sure you connect with each other, and you can carry on some of these conversations, help each other out, see how you can work with each other. And I, of course, will see you all next Tuesday.